It's not uncommon that games get released on more than one platform at a time. This is called a port, and even non-gamers know this. What's not as common knowledge is that not all ports are created equal. Sure, some ports are very similar. Take for example the SNES and Genesis ports of The Lion King. These are essentially the same game, with most of the differences just being down to the hardware. Comparing these two is like comparing Hunt's brand ketchup to Heinz brand ketchup. Sure, the flavor might differ a bit, but ketchup is ketchup and some people may not even notice a difference. But then you've got the SNES and Genesis ports of Aladdin. These two are completely different with very little in common. Comparing them is like comparing ketchup to mustard, a completely different experience that isn't interchangeable with its counterpart. And that's where the show comes in.
Hey guys, what's up? Bergman Hobo here, and welcome to a new segment on my channel called Consoletrast. Here, I look at two versions of the same game, and I decide, are they interchangeable, and if not, which is the better one, and should you even bother with the lesser? And, since it's a Halloween and all, we should look at something spooky. And yes, I'm well aware that other channels do this exact same thing, and I don't care. So, today, we're looking at Monster Madness Battle for Suburbia on the Xbox 360, and comparing it with Sony contemporary Monster Madness Grave Danger on the PS3. And we're going to see which one of them is better. Now yes, there's also a PC version, but we'll address that at the end. So, two games enter, and only one comes out. Or maybe they're both true. I don't know. Let's see. But first, let's break my usual routine and talk about the story, since it's the same for both.
The story for Monster Madness follows our four teenage heroes: Zack the nerd, Carrie the goth, Andy the skater, and Jennifer the popular. These four adolescents are accosted by zombies, and they quickly learn that their neighbors have gone missing. So now, they must take up arms, fight through this monster menace, and save Suburbia. The more retro-inclined of you must be thinking, gee, that sounds an awful lot like Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Well, it's funny you should say that, because this game was inspired by Zombies Ate My Neighbors. They even reference it in the first 10 minutes of the game.
Never thought I'd say that.
Gah! Zombies have eaten my neighbors! I will make them pay!
When you boil the story down, it's basically just the whole stop the evil thing, but it's done well here, so I'll give it a pass.
Now I've heard on the grapevine that the PS3 is the improved version, but you can't have an improvement without a baseline, so we're going to start by looking at the Xbox version.
Gameplay for Monster Madness is an action game, just like its inspiration. As your chosen teenager with attitude, you must traverse the level, accomplishing objectives, killing monsters, and making it to the end of the stage, usually on foot, but sometimes you'll have a vehicle to drive. There is some slight difference in how each character plays. See, each character has a weapon they're best suited for. Axes for Zack, swords for Carrie, dual-wield stuff for Jennifer, and random everyday objects like plungers and rolling pins for Andy. Each level has a stronger version of each hero's weapon. If they pick up the wrong one, they'll complain and do less damage. But the weapons can be hidden well, so keep an eye out. Weapons are also color-coded: blue for Zack, purple for Carrie, pink for Jennifer, and orange for Andy. At frequent intervals in this game, you'll get into a monster fest. You're locked in and have to clear out all the enemies before being allowed to proceed. Sometimes it's simple as just killing every enemy with whatever you have on hand. Other times there's a gimmick, like having to use skulls of the normal skeletons to kill the summoners, since they can't be killed otherwise. Get used to these because the game will throw them at you a lot. There's a wide variety of monsters for you to slay. The most common enemies are the various types of zombies. Also, do get out with spiders, skeletons, gremlins, ghouls. There's a huge amount of enemies, and most levels introduce at least one new type of enemy. Every now and then, a random monster will be golden. These monsters are tougher to kill. When you do kill them, they drop a ton of money. As you fight with a melee weapon, a meter fills up. Once full, this meter allows you to do a special attack, good for clearing out enemies when you get overwhelmed. You also get guns, a wide array that must be built and later upgraded, both with parts you find laying around and monster tokens from defeated enemies. These are bought from Larry Tools. He drives an RV around and plays rock music to let you know he's nearby, so keep an ear out for that. Aside from purchasing and upgrading your guns, you also get secondary weapons like Molotovs, grenades, and more. Plus, you can heal your hero and stock up on ammo. The only downside with Larry is that you can't talk to him when monsters are around. Now, that's understandable, but sometimes monsters just will not stop spawning when all you want to do is buy something. Ugh! Go away, zombies. I'm just trying to buy a soda here. Jeez! Regarding guns, you do get a nice variety. Pistols, a shotgun, a rocket launcher, and a flamethrower to mention just a few. You can even hotkey favorite weapons with the D-pad for quick access, which is nice. Also, heavier weapons slow you down, making it harder to dodge, so be ready for that. One thing I'm not so fond of is that all the weapons share ammo, so if you're out of ammo for one of your guns, you're out of ammo for all of them. Not the worst thing ever, but can be annoying when you run out of ammo in a tough fight. As a side note, guns are not shared between characters, so unlocking a gun for Zack won't unlock it for Carrie, Andy, and Jennifer. However, unlocking levels as one character unlocks them for everyone, so that's nice. You can also find vending machines for health and ammo, as well as just laying around on the map. The problem is you have to manually pick up each and every weapon part and token, and it does get kinda tedious to run over all of them, and then the tokens vanish if you take too long to collect them. When playing alone, you go into a follow cam mode, putting the camera behind your character's back instead of above them, but some areas force you to use the bird's eye camera. Not the worst thing in the world, but the camera can be annoying to juggle from a higher up view. Regarding level design, it's usually straightforward. There's lots of hidden nooks and crannies to explore and search for extra weapon parts and those hidden weapons. Also, these weapons often have verticality to them, so there's a lot to explore if you're so inclined. So far, the game seems pretty alright, but I do have quite a few nitpicks. For one, checkpoints are more like save states in that they don't replenish your health. If you're nearly dead when you get to the checkpoint, you'll still be nearly dead when you die and respawn. And soda isn't always just laying around. Sometimes there's no bubbly around when you really need it. In fact, I'm pretty sure that health and ammo pickups are RNG, and I'll explain why I think that later. Also, the controls. Originally, jumping was mapped to R3, and A and B were used for cycling weapons. A patch was released to modify them, which fixed the jump button issue, but there's still more problems. For one thing, the dodge move is still placed on L3, and I can't tell you how many times I wound up accidentally jumping into an enemy or hazard, taking damage, and not feeling like it was my fault. And then, there's the weapon selection. In other run-and-gun games, for example Ratchet & Clank, your melee weapon is separate from your arsenal, so you don't have to waste time juggling weapons around just to equip it and smack somebody. But not here, and you can't map your melee weapon to the D-pad. This is annoying when you get rushed by enemies while reloading and can't just press a different button to shoo them off, thus taking unnecessary damage. And only gets worse as you get more weapons. And regarding the guns, some of them allow you to just keep holding the button down to keep shooting, but not all of them do that, and this can tire out your index finger real quick. And another thing with controls and melee problems, the special attack is done by holding the attack button down, and the game frequently misreads my presses, so I've wound up using the special move when I didn't need to, thereby wasting it. Also, if your meter's full and you switch to a gun and then back to your melee weapon, the meter resets. It would be nice to have the special move in reserve, so I could switch back to my melee weapon and bust it out. As for the vehicle controls, they range from okay to god awful. The problem of misreading button inputs is back with a vengeance. Take the car for instance. You press the right trigger to accelerate, left trigger to reverse, and hit both to boost. But when switching between reverse and accelerate, sometimes it misreads it as hitting both, meaning you shoot forward when you wanted to go backward, and it could lead you to taking damage or a cheap death. And steering is confusing too, because sometimes it's inverted, sometimes it's not, the game doesn't tell you when. There is little feedback on the vehicles and it feels like you barely have any control over them, rather just suggesting where it goes. And the ATV goes the same way. The hovercraft and the UFO, however, they're fine. Still not perfect, but they control better, though the hovercraft can be a booger to control in tight spaces. Frustration abounds in this game. In the downtown evasion level, you get a monster fest at the end of the level. There's a crashed helicopter with spinning blades, and if you touch it, it's basically an instant kill. And that boots you back down the street where you have to do a kinda tedious basketball minigame. And then, when you finish all that monster mashing stuff, you have an annoying chase level where it's easy to get stuck and die. At the very least, there's a checkpoint before that starts. But those are just some of the annoying levels in this game. I can give you more examples. Take, for example, the first mall stage. Most of this stage is pretty manageable, but at the end, you have to get in a mech, destroy a bunch of cars to gather up parts, then destroy the Ferris wheel. By its very nature, that should be a ton of fun, but it's not. And why, you ask? Because you are constantly being bombarded by enemies. Now sure, the mech can take a beating and has lots of weapons, but these baddies are on you like sprinkles on a cupcake, and they will whittle your health down. And they just love to hang out in spots where your weapons can't reach them, so you have to hop away and attack. But sometimes that's easier said than done with all the rubble and debris around you. And if at any point the mech blows up with you in it, you're dead and you have to do it all again. When I destroyed the Ferris wheel, the mech was literally 1 inch from death. Thankfully, this level gives you the bouncy shoes, which makes it easy to run, so I just got out of the mech and ran to finish the level. Another annoyance? Stun locking. This game loves stun locking you. Multiple enemies have at least one trap move, and when your character is caught in one, they scream, and you have to either mash buttons or rotate sticks to get out of it. But it's very possible for you to get in a trap over and over and over again, like during this boss fight. And different traps have different button requirements, and sometimes it's easy to miss that the button has changed. So get used to your adolescent hero scream, because you'll be hearing their pitch perfect tenor a lot. And some of the enemies are way more annoying than they have any right to be. But the harpies claim my prize for the worst. They're always flying, so they're harder to hit. They love stun locking you, and even when you do kill them, you better make darn sure you destroy the egg they lay, or you have to kill them all over again. It's nice when it falls off a cliff into the water, making it so you don't have to bother with it, but get ready for some annoyances with the harpies, especially when the game throws multiple at you at once, which it will. This game could get pretty annoying, but one boss fight in particular almost broke me. He's a 3-phase fight, but you only get a checkpoint after the first phase. You have to do the second and third phases on one checkpoint, which doesn't sound so bad, but each phase gets a little harder, and phase 3 almost made me give up on trying to finish this game. In principle, it's not that hard. Dodge his attacks, wait for him to land, shoot at him when he lands. Rinse and repeat until the boss is down. But they didn't put walls in this area. You know what that means? You can go flying off the roof, and if you do, game over. Back to the start of the second phase of the fight. Earlier I mentioned soda and ammo being random, and this is when I realized that. The first few times I got to that third phase, there was plenty of soda for me to grab, but one time I made it to the second phase with most of my health gone, and there was only one can of soda, whereas previous attempts had 3 or 4 cans for me. But there was plenty of ammo. For real though, this fight was annoying and I very nearly threw in the towel. But then, somehow, I finished him. And then the game threw an escape section at me, and I died even more. On the plus side, the game finally gave me a freaking checkpoint, so there's that at least. All told, I died about 8 times in this level, and that was the most amount of times I died in my entire playthrough. Do you get anything for finishing? Actually, yes. If you complete certain difficulty modes with certain grade averages, you get costumes for your adolescent protagonists. These costumes don't give you any special abilities or perks you didn't already have like in other games, they're just more of a bragging right. Now, this game drove me insane at certain points. Yet, despite all the annoying and even frustrating parts of the game, despite all the times the controls just didn't want to work, and despite all the times I found myself cursing the developers, I can't say I hate this game. It kind of grows on you if you let it sink its hooks into you.
Alright, so that was a time. But before we get into the presentation, since I think we can knock that out for both at once, let's talk about the gameplay of the PS3 version. Now real quick, before we start, there is a bug I should mention right out of the gate. Basically, the PS3 version had these always online features, and when the game was turned on, they would connect to these servers. However, the servers were shut down, and the game was never patched not to go out and look for them. So when you turn the game on, it goes out and looks for them, and it can't find them, so it kind of just freaks out. However, you can nullify this by turning off the internet on your console. Doing that will basically prevent it from checking for the servers, so it doesn't freak out and can save as normal. Alright, now let's tear into this beast.
Right off the bat, we have some major improvements. The controls are given a much needed coat of polish. For one thing, shooting your guns is now tied to the right analog stick, functioning like a dual stick shooter, so you can just keep pointing to keep shooting, which greatly helps with the sore fingers issue from before. Also, your melee weapon has its own button, so you can seamlessly switch from guns to melee. On top of that, your special attack also is given its own button, so no more accidentally wasting it. You still lose your meter if you switch from guns to melee, which kinda sucks, but with how easy it is to get back to melee, it's not as big of an annoyance as before. And even better, the dodge is taken off L3, so I don't keep accidentally jumping into enemies. The vehicle controls are now much better. They're still not perfect, I still got stuck now and then, but an improvement is an improvement. Speaking of enemies, now when they die, the tokens don't just go flying everywhere for you to pick up, they're magnetically pulled into you, and weapon parts are no longer scattered all over the map. Now, they're placed in these tool chests that are hidden around the levels, and they can be hidden pretty well though, so make sure you look everywhere for them. But like with the monster tokens, once you open the tool chest, the parts just fly into you, so you don't have to run around like a headless chicken to get them all. The improvements just keep on coming. Death no longer sends you back to a checkpoint. When you die, you just pop up right where you were. However, if you die outside of a gauntlet, like in downtown level, you have to restart the gauntlet, which in my opinion is a fair trade-off. And some sections of levels, like the basketball minigame and chase at the end of downtown, were removed. Levels are now shorter, and many of the frustrating parts were gone. This game is way less frustrating to play. A whole new feature that was added is the ability to upgrade our heroes themselves. You can buy character upgrades from Malaria alongside the weapon upgrades, and these will only cost monster tokens. Things like faster movement, more melee damage, passive healing, and more. These make a tangible difference in your young heroes and make them quite a force to be reckoned with. Also, the game no longer ties costume unlocks to finishing the campaign. Now, there are several challenge levels that you play through to get the costumes. Like before, these don't give your characters any new perks or benefits, they just look cool. And these challenges, whew, They can range from easy peasy to oh my god, why can't I beat this? You only need to get a C on the challenges to get the costumes, but even that can be quite tough at times. There's a nice variety of challenges too. Enemy gauntlets, platform challenges, a rhythm game, which I can't finish to save my own life, and more. You even get more costumes that weren't in the Xbox version. Some things, however, were not fixed in the transition. I already mentioned the special meter, but enemies can still stun lock you back to back. Thankfully, with infinite respawns it's not as big of an issue, but you'll still hear lots of screams and do lots of button mashes, stick spinning, and even controller shaking to break out of it. Also, you still have issue of not being able to talk to Larry when there are monsters around, and they just won't stop spawning in some spots. And for all the things the game adds, it takes away too. The follow cam? Gone. Plus some other stuff we'll get into in a second here, but I'm willing to give up some charm if it means better gameplay. While the PS3 trounces the Xbox 360 in terms of gameplay, presentation is one aspect that the Xbox handles better. When a new enemy is introduced, you get a little name badge for them, and when you kill them the first time, they get added to your bestiary, which gives you cool little blurbs about them, and as well as being a cool little model viewer. Also, the little loading screens had tidbits of info, not just for the game, but also for our heroes and other stuff. When you buy or upgrade weapons, the characters have commentary associated with it. Heck, Larry does too. And all those things I just mentioned, they did not make the jump to the PS3 version. Come on, man. Those are all cool things that made the characters seem more alive, you know? Give us more personality that isn't in the PS3 version. However, in both versions, the graphics do look charming. The levels are either bright and colorful or dark and dreary depending on the area you're in. Many of the cutscenes are presented in a comic book style, onomatopoeias and all, and there are also cutscenes that use the in-game models. What's cool about those, though, is that with Zack. See, when he's in his comic book sections, his glasses are opaque, but on his character model, you can see his eyes. Now, voice acting is cool too. Everyone sounds good and they bounce off each other well, though some lines get cut off and sometimes the subtitles don't match up. Heck, there was one spot where the wrong subtitle was used altogether. The music is a feast. It really sounds good, though you likely won't remember it after you turn the game off. With Larry's RV, the music gets louder and the level soundtrack gets quieter as you get closer, so it's easy to tell he's within earshot. All in all, these games look and sound great. Alas, there can be only one winner.
Alright, both cases have been displayed, so time to pick. Which one of these is the better? Drumroll please. Winner is the PS3 version. With its quality of life updates, better controls, more features, and all that other stuff, I dubbed this one the definitive version. That being said, should you even bother with the Xbox version? Well, honestly, before I started this review, I did not like this game at all. I really didn't like it. It just frustrated me. However, as I began to play this game more intimately for the review, I kind of started to like it more. It's kind of like that one coworker or classmate that you just don't get along with, so you just avoid them. However, you get paired with them on a big project, so now you have to spend time with them. But as you work through together, you come to an understanding and you respect them more. And that's this version from here. That's what happened. However, I still dub the PS3 version as the winner because, you know, gameplay is king. And that said, have you played either of these? Which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Alright guys, and so closes the book on the first and hopefully not last episode of Consoletrast. Thank you so much for watching. This took quite a while to put together, so a like would be greatly appreciated. What do you guys think? Are there other versions of other games that I should look at? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Now come back next month when we don the suit and shades once again. Until then, this is the Bargain Hobo saying be brave, dare to play. Oh, and happy Hoboween. Hobo out!